What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? My name is J. Cole, not to get confused with the real J. Cole. And thank you for tuning into another episode on DESU Radio, The Nest. Today we have a special interview today with the co-founder of AllHipHop, Grouchy Greg. So before we get started into today's episode, I just want to quickly shout out the radio station for letting us use their equipment. And without further ado, let's get right into this interview. You ready, Grouchy Greg?
I'm ready.
All right,
What's happening, y'all? What's up, DSU?
So before we get into the event that I want to talk about, just give a brief introduction about yourself and y'all bringing in what you stand for and everything, man.
Yeah. I'm a lifelong Delaware resident. I've been involved in the hip hop scene and the hip hop culture here going back to the 80s. I hate to date myself, but longer than probably some of y'all have been alive. Mm-hmm. And I've been involved in the music business here in Delaware for quite some time. Founded my first record label when I was in high school. Mm-hmm. The record label had some decent success. But as I was learning to run a business, I came into challenges with the record label, ran out of money. And right around that time, the internet was just starting to pop up. So I founded AllHipHop.com as a record label initially. Then I got with my partner, Chuck Jigsaw Creekmer, who I've known, most of my life as well. We went to high school together, and he was also involved in the internet early on. We're talking about probably 96, 97. And, we decided to take AllHipHop.com and turn it into really the first internet daily magazine kind of concept. Right. Our concept was it's like ESPN for hip hop, mm-hmm. Daily news, music, interviews, videos, audio, all that stuff, So 98, we launched the brand and, it took off from there. And here we are 26 years later.
Wow.
Yeah.
Congrats, man.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate
it. No problem. So Saturday, October 26, 2024,
Mm-hmm.
the second annual Hip Hop Culture Summit presented by AllHipHop and Gorilla Republic.
That's right.
So this event will be held at Delaware Art Museum. And we actually have a special guest for that event. Headline is Flavor Flav for this event.
Flavor Flav.
Yeah. I apologize.
It's all good.
For that. Hey, I just showed my my youth there.
Well, Flavor Flav is one of the co-founders of Public Enemy.
Okay.
Public Enemy is a if not the most revolutionary group to come out of hip hop culture. Mm-hmm. Especially in the late 80s and really now. I mean, they're still releasing music. They dropped a new record last month. Okay. But they've been at the forefront of pushing for the rights of Black people, rapping about injustices that Black people have suffered at the hands of police or the medical system or any number of injustices. Right. Public Enemy has been that group with Chuck D. And then, of course, Flav is a reality TV star, with Flavor of Love and all that kind of stuff. He really was involved in kicking off the reality TV, craze.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so just to piggyback off of that, can you just explain to me like what the Hip Hop Culture Summit is and its purpose?
Yeah. So, we did the first one last year at the Delaware Art Museum, and the purpose of the event is to really show younger people what hip hop culture is all about. It's way more than just the music. Right. So it's really a forum for education. You know what I mean? Now it's not corny, but there are panel discussions, artwork, music, graffiti, art, all of those kinds of things at the Delaware Art Museum, which is a really prestigious setting. We wanted to make sure that because hip hop is an art form and probably the most influential art form that America has ever created and then exported around the world, we wanted to make sure that we did the genre justice by holding it at the Delaware Art Museum.
Right.
So, we did the first one last year, which was centered around the 50th anniversary of hip hop. Del State, the students came up. We had 30 students from campus, who were up there volunteering, helping out, making sure that the event ran well. So shout out to, the Mass Comm and Music Business Department students, and it really, we really focused on the founding fathers of hip hop. So we had Grandmaster Caz, we had MC Sharrock, we had Joe Conzo, who's an early photographer who captured hip hop culture in the early days, and we had Young Guru, who is Jay-Z's engineer, and we had a bunch of local artists as well who released records in the early 80s and early 90s from Delaware who, had a real impact on the regional scene,
right.
but, maybe didn't get their just due because there was no internet and there was no streaming. You had to sell a physical product,
right,
so it was much more difficult to break through on a mass level. So we wanted to make sure that those local artists were also being uplifted as well. And last year was AllHipHop's 25th anniversary. So we kind of, celebrated all of those things at once. But each year, the Hip Hop Cultural Summit has a theme to it. So last year was, the 50th anniversary and how hip hop has really impacted every facet of American society and global society around the world for the past 50 years, as well as we always make sure we have a local angle, about Delaware involved in these summits as well. So this year, we decided to focus on hip hop, social justice, and activism.
Wow. Okay. That's good. That's good. So, segue into my next question here. So I have a quote from the Guerrilla Republic co-founder. He wasn't able to make it here today.
Yeah.
Mr. Is. He said, "Our goal is to re-educate people on the true purpose of hip hop." So, I just want to know, like, in your own words, in what ways does this event plan to re-educate people on hip hop, and what is the true purpose of hip hop as well?
So when hip hop was initially founded, it was founded as a way to stop gang violence. There were gangs warring in the South Bronx and in the New York City in general. They were fighting with each other, killing each other. And the early founders of the founding fathers of hip hop culture decided that, there was a better way for them to express themselves or express their beefs. And that came about through rapping, through breakdancing, specifically through rapping and breakdancing. And, from there, the gangs, morphed into these, early hip hop crews that started to, use the art form of hip hop culture to express themselves versus violence. And so, what we're doing each year is making sure that people are re-educated about that. Hip hop has also been a tool for our communities to communicate with each other. There was a time when there was no internet, and there was a time where there was no cell phones.
Right,
I mean, there was a time when we weren't all connected like this. It's hard to imagine, I know, but it wasn't even that far ago, long ago. I mean, the iPhone came out in 2007. You know what I mean? That may sound like a long time ago, but it's really not that long ago. So there was a time in recent history where our communities didn't have the ability to communicate with each other, especially at the speed of light.
Right.
So hip hop culture became that medium, and the things that were important to our communities were spread through the music, and so that's why hip hop started to become known as, the CNN type, medium where rappers could express themselves, through their music and get that out to community of people who felt the same way about maybe how they were being oppressed or the injustices they were facing, within society. So, that's what hip hop really, how hip hop started. And that's really what the culture of hip hop is about.
Right. Okay. Yeah, great answer. I feel like I learned a lot just from that one answer, man. That was a good one. So last year's event, you guys had over 1,000 attendees at this event. So How important is an event like this for the younger generation?
I mean, I think it's very important, depending on what you are trying to do. I mean, not every young person is going to care. Let's just be real about it. You know what I mean? But, someone like myself, when I was, y'all's age, I was very interested in understanding the history of my people. I was very interested in understanding the history of the music business. I was very interested in figuring out what my place was in society and where I fit in, and you can't really understand your position in current society unless you understand the history of it.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so whether you're going to school to be, an accounting major or in the music business or, as y'all are doing mass comm and music business, you have to know the history of those industries to understand where you are and to understand how it's evolving.
Right.
It's much easier to understand and find success in those industries if you know the history of them. You know what I mean? So that's what we're saying, to the young people is come out and understand what this music is actually all about in an environment that is not, stifling. I mean, we've got MC battles going on. We've got a graffiti battle. We got breakdancing battles. We've got world-renowned panelists coming down to talk about hip hop, social justice, and activism, and food trucks, DJs, all that stuff is going on. So it's not an event that you're just going to be, sitting down and listening to people talk for 2 hours. You know what I mean? Right. It's not a lecture. It's an event that's filled with energy. You know what I mean? So it's a dope event.
Right. And speaking on the panelists, that leads me to my next question.
Yep.
So the confirmed guests for this event, we have Mr. Chuck Creekmer, Hakeem Green, Pam Africa, and Dr. Payne. So why did we pick these individuals for this event specifically?
Yeah. No doubt. So my partner is doing the keynote with Flavor Flav. He's gonna ask the Q&A. My partner is a legendary journalist who's interviewed everybody you can think of in the game. There's not a name that he hasn't interviewed. So he's gonna lead that discussion. The other panel, which is focused on hip hop, social justice, and activism, each one of these panelists we selected because of their role in hip hop and activism. So Dr. Yasser Arafat Payne is a professor at the University of Delaware who teaches about hip hop culture, Black men, and their role in society. He's also an author of a number of studies around Black men and our behavior in society, how music impacts that. So he's the moderator. We have Councilman Dupree Kelly, who, for people who are really into hip hop, they'll know who the Lords of the Underground are. They were a platinum plus selling group who had big hits in the 90s. And he transitioned out of hip hop, and he's now a councilman in Newark, New Jersey. So he sits on city council and he shapes the legislation that happens in the city. And so we picked him because of his role doing that. Hakeem Green is a member of a group called Channel Live. Channel Live has another, real famous hip hop record, Mad Ism, and they probably still play that at the parties y'all go to, even though you might not recognize it by name. You know what I mean? It's like one of those hits that's a staple in hip hop. And so he also leads an effort called 24 Hours Apiece. And if you know anything about Newark, New Jersey, it was a very violent city for a long period of time. And, through his effort and other efforts, they've managed to get the crime rate down, mainly through hip hop. And every year they have a huge concert, 24 Hours Apiece, where they call for no violence, no shootings, no anything for those 24 hours, for everybody to put their beefs aside and come, express themselves through hip hop culture. We got Pam Africa, who's, you just have to Google her to see her accomplishments. I mean, she's a legendary activist, you know, going back to the 70s and the 80s, specifically in Philadelphia, where you're from. You know, she was part of the MOVE movement, you know, and, you know, MOVE was really big in Philadelphia in terms of justice for locals. I mean, it even got so crazy with the MOVE movement that the city actually dropped a bomb on their houses and, you know, killed, you know, dozens of their members. You know what I mean? That was like a worldwide, you know, controversy. But she's been active in the community advocating for us. We have Chandra Pitts, who runs a nonprofit organization called One Village Alliance. She's on the panel as well. And she's been very active in the Delaware community. She's been here at Del State, and she hosts, you know, major events up in the city to make sure people in the neighborhood are fed, clothed, back to school drives. And, you know, she utilizes hip hop to, you know, bring a lot of the community members in. So, you know, those are I think I covered everybody. Yeah, those are the panelists for that one. And let me hear your next question. Yeah, I don't want to answer everything before you get a chance to ask some questions.
That was a list of powerful names, man, and powerful achievements. So, those panelists sound incredible. So to segue into my next talking point here. So you said yourself that you were incredibly excited about this year. So what are you most excited about?
Well, listen, y'all. The thing I'm most excited about is unveiling a piece of Delaware history that most people have no idea about. You know what I mean? And, you know, in hip hop, the foundational element of hip hop is the turntable. You know what I mean? The record player. And most people don't know that a man from Delaware, you know, invented the modern day record player. He invented it. He invented the concept of the modern day record label. So when you talk about SZA, when you talk about Taylor Swift, when you talk about Doja Cat, that's just three artists. I mean, we could go on Ray Charles, Sam Cooke, Elvis Presley, Louis Armstrong, Frank Sinatra. I mean, the list just goes on and on. Billie Holiday, Ella Fitzgerald, Harry Belafonte, you know, these huge titans of the music industry were all on a record label that was created and founded by a dude from Delaware. Wow. You know what I mean? So we're going to break down the invention of the record player, how the modern music industry, you know, was founded and created by a gentleman from Delaware. You know what I mean? Who from Dover, from here.
That's crazy. I did not know that. Like, it's a lot of. It sounds like it's going to be a lot of gems.
Oh man, listen. I really think people are going to walk away with, you know, a different understanding of not only hip hop culture, but also of where Delaware sits in it. You know what I mean? A lot of times I hear students down here, I hear people from Delaware, well, Delaware, what happened to Delaware? Delaware, you know, Delaware is, well, yo, you know, we got a lot of people from Del State that are out in the industry. You know what I mean? My partner went to Del State. You know, Jamila Mustafa, Lauren LaRosa, Armani White, Jimmy Allen. I mean, you know, there are a number of people that are out here at B-Dot, you know what I mean? From XXL. And, you know, there are a number of people who have you know, come from Delaware and Delaware State even, and made their mark on the industry. So, you know, my goal is to, you know, really show people, hey, listen, when you talk about Delaware, you need to understand that it was our dude from Delaware that founded the music business. Right. Literally, that founded the concept of recording sound and commercializing it around the world.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
That's powerful, right?
Yeah, it's crazy.
So, not going to take up too much more of your time.
It's all good, man.
Leading into this last question here. So, I just wanted to know your thoughts on why hip hop today is so much different from back then. What is the biggest change?
I mean, there's you know, that could go on, you know, forever. But some of the things I'm going to say are not opinionated. Okay. You know, first of all, nothing is going to stay the same. You know, none of us would want hip hop music to be and sound the way it was in the 70s. You know what I mean? Younger people get it, they get a hold of it, and they make it their own. You know, that's just the way all music evolves.
Right.
You know what I mean? But, you know, it's, you know, a number of factors, you know, technology, you know what I mean, has changed the way hip hop sounds. Legal reasons have changed the way hip hop sounds. You know, in the late 90s, early 2000s, the Supreme Court ruled, you know, issued a ruling over sampling, you know, what or how music could be sampled. There was a time period where you could sample somebody's music and turn it into something else and make it something brand new. And that was called a transformative use. Right. You know what I mean? It's very big in art. So, you know, if I take your picture of you and, you know, it's your image of you, but if I transform you into something else, you no longer have rights to that. Wow. You know what I mean? Yeah. I can copyright that image and say, this is mine, it's new, I changed it into something else. You used to be able to do that with hip hop and sampling, but then it became, you know, a legal battle where, no, you can't take 5 seconds of something, add it with something else and call it a brand new, call it your own. And so now, you know, you get sued if you sample something without having the proper clearances. So that also changed the way music sounds. And then, you know, listen, the advent of the internet, home recording studios, you know, all of those things helped shape the way hip hop sounds now. And then not to mention different aspects of society. You know, there was a time period in the 70s where crack cocaine, you know, was plaguing our communities. That had an impact on the way the music sounded and the way what people talked about, you know what I mean, when I say how it sounded. You know, another generation goes through the opioid crisis. That has an impact on the way the music sounds, the way it's consumed, what people rap about. You know what I mean? How people are impacted in society and, you know, what they rap about. There was a period where in rap where most of the big rappers would have consequences in their raps. You know, you rap about doing something and you might learn what the consequence is in that song. But now, you know, there's not too many rappers, or that there are. Let me walk that back. Now, though, in commercial rap, you kind of just hear sometimes more negative thing, you know, drug usage that's being commercialized and sold. You know what I mean? So, you know, corporations and corporate America has gotten a hold of it, and that has also changed the way it sounds and what types of products get released and marketed. You know what I mean? Right. So all of those things have kind of changed the way hip hop sounded, you know, especially from a commercial standpoint. You know, now it's not always about getting a message out to the community. Now it's about trying to make a living and, you know, trying to build wealth from it. Nothing wrong with that either, but it's going to change the way it sounds.
Yeah, definitely. So, hey, I just want to give a special thank you to you, Mr. Greg here.
Mr. Greg, don't be calling me. I know somebody else. Don't be calling me Mr. Greg. You know what I mean? Make me sound like I'm, you know, driving Miss Daisy. Oh, Mr. Greg. Mr. Greg, can you pull up my car for me?
Right. But nah, thank you, though, for taking the time out and speaking to our station here at DESU Radio.
Of course.
So if you guys like what you heard and you like what you see, make sure you guys subscribe, comment down below, leave a like, and I'm signing out here. Peace. Thank you, man.
Yeah, of course.
I learned a lot from that.